Long hauls need smart prep. Tap like, hit subscribe, and let's begin.
Question 1. An air compressor governor controls when the air compressor pumps air into the storage tanks. True or false? True. The governor determines when to cut in and cut out, usually around 100 psi and 125 psi, respectively. Question 2. You should always use a cell phone while driving a school bus to communicate with dispatch. True or false? False. Using a cell phone while driving is strictly prohibited and considered a major safety violation. Question 3. The emergency brake system uses the same pressure as the service brake system. True or false? False. The emergency brake system uses spring pressure, not air, to apply brakes when air pressure is lost. Question 4. When backing a double trailer, you should always start with the rear trailer. True or false? False. Backing doubles is strongly discouraged. If necessary, disconnect and back them separately. Question 5. In hazardous materials transport, shipping papers must be within the driver's reach while restrained by a seatbelt. True or false? True. Regulations require the driver to have quick access to shipping papers in the event of an emergency. Question 6. You are allowed to transport unauthorized passengers in a CMV as long as you notify your carrier. True or false? False. Unauthorized passengers are strictly prohibited unless written authorization is obtained in advance. Question 7. Underinflated tires are safer than overinflated ones when hauling a heavy load. True or false? False. Underinflated tires are extremely dangerous, especially under heavy loads, as they can overheat and fail. Question 8. Drivers with a tank vehicle endorsement must know how to handle surge. True or false? True. Surge from liquid movement can dramatically affect stopping distance and vehicle control. Question 9. Brake fade can be caused by excessive use of the parking brake. True or false? False. Brake fade is usually caused by overheating during excessive use of service brakes, not parking brakes. Question 10. The rear door of a school bus must be checked before every trip to ensure it activates the warning buzzer. True or false? True. Pre-trip inspections for school buses must include emergency exits and buzzer systems. Question 11. Placards are only required when transporting more than 1,000 pounds of hazardous material. True or false? False. Some hazardous materials require placards regardless of the amount transported. Question 12. The drive wheel skid is the most dangerous type of skid because you can't steer out of it. True or false? True. In drive wheel skids, the vehicle tends to spin, and steering correction becomes extremely difficult. Question 13. You must activate hazard flashers when stopped on a shoulder for any reason. True or false? True. Hazard lights are required to alert others when a vehicle is disabled or temporarily stopped on a shoulder. Question 14. A CDL medical certificate is valid for 5 years unless specified otherwise by a physician. True or false? False. Medical certificates typically last up to 2 years unless a shorter duration is assigned due to a condition. Question 15. When making a right turn in a large vehicle, you should always keep your rear wheels close to the curb. True or false? True. This prevents other vehicles from attempting to pass you on the right during the turn. Question 16. CMV drivers are allowed to use radar detectors in commercial vehicles. True or false? False. Federal regulations prohibit the use of radar detectors in all commercial motor vehicles. Question 17. The alcohol concentration limit for commercial drivers is 0.08%. True or false? False. The legal limit for CDL holders is 0.04%, which is lower than the standard limit for passenger drivers. Question 18. On a long downgrade, the proper braking technique is to apply the brakes hard until the speed drops by 5 miles per hour. True or false? True. This is part of the proper brake application method on downgrades to avoid overheating. Question 19. You are allowed to refuel a bus with passengers on board if a qualified person is standing nearby. True or false? False. Refueling with passengers on board is not allowed unless absolutely necessary and following strict safety rules. Question 20. Cargo that is not sealed should be inspected at least every 150 miles. True or false? True. Periodic inspections are mandated to ensure that cargo remains secure during transit. Question 21. The air compressor drive belt should be removed before any trip inspection. True or false? False. The belt should be checked for tightness and condition, not removed. Question 22. School bus drivers must stop at all railroad crossings, even when empty. True or false? True. School buses must come to a full stop at every railroad crossing, regardless of whether students are present. Question 23. You are allowed to refuel a bus with passengers on board if a qualified person is standing nearby. True or false? False. Hydraulic brakes must be regularly checked for leaks and proper operation, just like air brakes. Question 24. You should check the slack adjusters during your pre-trip inspection. True or false? True. Slack adjusters are crucial to brake performance and should be checked for appropriate range of motion. Question 25. You can use water to put out a flammable liquid fire if no other extinguisher is available. True or false? False. Water can spread flammable liquid fires and should never be used for that class of fire. Question 26. After a tire blowout, you should brake immediately to prevent loss of control. True or false? False. Sudden braking after a blowout can cause a skid. Instead, hold the steering wheel firmly and gradually slow down. Question 27. A loaded truck can take 20 to 40% farther to stop than a car. True or false? True. Trucks require a significantly longer stopping distance due to size and weight, especially when loaded. Question 28. Hazardous materials can be transported without placards if you're traveling less than 100 miles. True or false? False. Placards are required based on quantity and classification, not travel distance. Question 29. The driver is responsible for knowing whether cargo is properly secured. True or false? True. Even if the driver didn't load the cargo, they are legally responsible for inspecting and securing it. Question 30. The minimum tread depth for front tires on a CMV is 2/32 inch. True or false? False. Front tires on a commercial motor vehicle must have a minimum tread depth of 4/32 inch. Question 31. You should always keep both hands on the wheel when shifting gears. True or false? False. One hand is used to shift, but both should return to the wheel immediately after the shift. Question 32. The first sign of drowsy driving is blinking more frequently or yawning. True or false? True. These are early signs of fatigue and indicate it's time to rest. Question 33. Retarders help slow the vehicle and reduce brake wear. True or false? True. Retarders are auxiliary braking systems that help control speed on downgrades. Question 34. Driving with a broken suspension system is safe as long as you drive slowly. True or false? False. Suspension defects are critical safety issues and must be repaired before operation. Question 35. It is legal to disconnect the ABS system fuse to save power if it's malfunctioning. True or false? False. ABS must remain operational. Disabling it violates federal safety regulations. Question 36. If your vehicle becomes disabled on the highway, you must place warning devices within 10 minutes. True or false? True. Federal regulations require emergency warning devices be placed promptly to alert other motorists. Question 37. You should never downshift when going uphill. True or false? False. Downshifting may be necessary on upgrades to maintain power and prevent stalling. Question 38. Brake drums should have no cracks longer than half the width of the friction area. True or false? True. Cracks exceeding this limit are considered unsafe and the brake drum must be replaced. Question 39. Air tank drains should be opened only once per week. True or false? False. Tanks must be drained daily to remove moisture and prevent brake system failure. Question 40. If you are transporting livestock, you should expect the vehicle's center of gravity to be unstable. True or false? True. Livestock moves during transit, shifting the center of gravity and increasing rollover risk. Question 41. Exemptions from CDL requirements apply to military vehicle operators in active duty. True or false? True. Active duty military personnel operating military vehicles may be exempt from CDL requirements. Question 42. You must stop 50 to 100 feet before a railroad crossing when placarded for hazardous materials. True or false? True. Placarded vehicles must stop within that range and check for approaching trains before crossing. Question 43. The steering system can have no more than 10 degrees of play in a 20-inch wheel. True or false? False. The maximum acceptable play is 2 inches for a 20-inch wheel, which equals about 10 degrees. Question 44. Doubling your speed quadruples your vehicle's stopping distance. True or false? True. Due to kinetic energy, stopping distance increases exponentially with speed. Question 45. If you are involved in an accident involving hazardous materials, leave the scene immediately. True or false? False. You must secure the scene, avoid exposure, and notify emergency responders per hazmat protocols. Question 46. Overhead clearance may change with the load or road conditions. True or false? True. Load height and road contour can affect actual clearance. Always be cautious. Question 47. The only acceptable way to test hydraulic brakes is by driving at highway speed and slamming the brakes. True or false? False. Brakes must be tested safely at low speeds during a pre-trip inspection. Question 48. An engine compartment pre-trip check includes checking oil, coolant, and power steering fluid levels. True or false? True. These are standard fluid checks required during every pre-trip inspection. Question 49. Using the stab braking method involves steady pressure until the vehicle stops completely. True or false? False. Stab braking involves full brake application, release when wheels lock, then repeat once traction returns. Question 50. The Utah CDL Manual is identical to every other state's handbook. True or false? False. While based on FMCSA guidelines, each state's manual includes specific rules, procedures, and policies.
That's another set done. Before you bounce, grab your cheat sheet or queue up the next video to keep learning.